Premier Gold Mines is an exploration, development, and producing company. A company that's been around for just over a decade and has been one of the few mining companies who's made the transition from explorer to producer. And currently we have two operating mines and several near development or development stage projects within our extensive portfolio of properties. As a geological group and exploration company, we are a team that recognize that very few projects actually go from being a concept exploration effort to full production. In fact, probably more than 99% of mineral properties don't become mines. So by having multiple projects gives us more options, so to speak. And we've always been a company that thinks that has a motto that don't always think that what we have is the best. There could be something better, and if we find something that's as good or better than our current portfolio, we should own it. And so we've always been open to trading up, so to speak, if we found the right opportunities. The market hasn't been at its highest in the last several years, and we recognize that to build a project of its scale, that it would be a very tough task for a company our size to go alone. And so we set out looking for a partner, and we're able to secure Centerra Gold as our partner, who are solely funding that project. And they paid us a cash payment, and with that cash payment, when they came in, we continued to identify other opportunities. And our two producing projects, the South Artero in Nevada and Mercedes in Mexico, were acquired with or partially with the funds that we received from Centerra as they came in. So we've been able to, I'd say, make some strategic acquisitions to grow our business with that joint venture.
You're not quite at the 100,000 mark. You're kind of, how many ounces are you producing at the moment?
80 to 90,000 ounces this year.
I want to talk about the strategy now, which is, with these exploration assets, presumably going to follow a very similar model to that you've already employed successfully with Greenstone, for instance. Is that true to say?
Yes, we're quite open to developing our own deposits. In fact, later this year, we expect to start development of our Cove property, one of our high-grade projects in Nevada. And that will be the first project that we initiate the development on our own and build. Mercedes, our producing mine, was acquired from Yamana. It was already operating. And our South Artero project, where the two mines are under construction, is operated by our partner Barrick.
Right.
So we are participating in the construction, but we're not actually doing it. So our strategy is to continue to grow our portfolio such that we continue to hopefully maintain a steady production profile in the future and steady cash flow, so that ultimately we can give back to shareholders.
At which point do you think the market investors have given you credit for your strategy? Obviously the Greenstone project, or getting Barrick involved, or finding new exploration assets. What do you think they're rewarding you for, or is it all of the above?
I think right now we're being somewhat penalized for being in the development stage. We're in that, even though we do have the one producing asset and some gold being still produced from stockpiles at South Artero, given that you mentioned back in 2016 we're up at $5. That was when South Artero was in full swing. So we had the two mines operating. We generated a huge amounts of cash flow in that year. In 2017, I think Premier was one of the top performing gold stocks on all of the TSX. But then that phase two open pit, as we called it, at South Artero was depleted. And since then, we've been processing some lower grade stockpiles, but our production profile dipped as we've been constructing the two new mines. And at the end of this year, we expect the underground to come online. And I'd like to think then we start to get rewarded for our future production growth.
What would you have done differently if looking back to that period?
I don't think we would have done anything really differently. There's maybe an acquisition or two we looked at that we passed on that turned out better than we thought. So right. You look at those opportunities. We always had an internal mentality that we're going to see this production gap. And what we called it was we need to fill that gap. And we were looking for producing or near producing opportunities that would have smoothed out our production profile. But all of the assets we looked at either sold for significantly more than we were willing to pay or were subpar, and we viewed them as being really not profitable or not really economic. So I think we made a lot of good decisions on what we passed on. I believe that we've assembled a number of assets that would be on the lower side on the production cost scale. So we should generate good cash no matter where the price of gold goes. I guess over the last 4 or 5, 6 years, we've seen gold test the 1350 several times and not break it.
You say, you know, whatever the price is, you'll make money. You know, if I look at Mercedes, you're indicating AISC of 900, 950. Is that what you're going to be expecting at South Artero as well, or?
I'd expect South Artero will be a lower cost operation. Right. The phase 2 pit, the all-in sustaining cost when it was in production was less than $400 an ounce. Wow. So very high margin ounces. We're not expecting phase 1 in El Nino to be quite as low cost, but we expect them to be quite low cost.
People aren't talking about you very much. There's not a lot of conversation, not a lot of chatter. You know, and what there is not a lot of new information. And I just wondered what you were going to be doing to talk. I guess talking to people like me to start. But you know, what's the plan here in terms of explaining what is? There's a lot of moving parts. And trying to break that down for investors to help them understand where the upside's going to come from.
One thing, we're trying to simplify our story. It's, as you said, there's a lot of moving parts. Some people may get a little confused of where is this company going and how is it trying to achieve. And I kind of liken ourselves to what Agnico Eagle was years ago. They grew several projects to go from being a small penny stock to a major producer. And to do that, they went through their trials and tribulations over the years and built out operations. And we're trying not to have anything that really, we're trying to smooth out our growth profile going forward rather than try to see the spikiness that you might see as an explorer. Everybody's excited about your exploration, you're on the chat rooms, but ultimately if nobody buys you, then reality sets in and, well, how much money do you need to build that, et cetera, et cetera. So you go that rise up in exploration and development, and then when you get into mining and hopefully profitable mining, then you should actually see your highest growth in your share price through that initiative. So we try to be somewhat humble and steady on how we deliver news. Obviously, if we make a major discovery somewhere, we'll talk about it. But our main thrust is saying we have the 1 operating mine, 2 in construction, with 1 coming online later this year, the other one in 2020, and 2 additional projects in full permitting for future development. So in terms of long-term production growth, I think there's very few companies who offer the opportunity that Premier does.